Hello, creative friends. My name is Susie, and I am the owner of the Speckled Loon. Welcome to my channel. If you have never been here before, I want to say thank you for finding us, and I hope you like the content enough to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back, and I hope you give this video a like as well. This video is all about our summer 2024 DIY Decor Kit quarterly subscription box. This box is extra special to me because it's our first anniversary box. We introduced our quarterly boxes back in the summer of 2023, and I've packed a few extra goodies in this box to celebrate its birthday. It's going to be released around May 20th, 2024 to people on our wait list, and I'll tell you how to join that a little bit later on. If you subscribe to our box, it means every 3 months you will get a box of unfinished DIY decor projects from our workshop sent right to your door. Each box is full of fun base items with interchangeable sets that work with the current seasons and holidays. All the projects are small, easy to complete, and you can display them on your favorite accent shelf or tiered tray. And just store them in the box they came in when they're not in use. The instructions in this video are for our summer 2024 box. And if you're interested in receiving our boxes, I'll encourage you to join our wait list. We only open up to new subscribers a few times a year, and the link to join that wait list is in the text below this video. If you're on the wait list, you will get first chance to claim a box when we are accepting new members. Our kits include everything you need to finish the projects inside, except for the paint. I want you to use the paint and colors you love and probably already have on hand. But as we go along, I will let you know the paint colors I use in case you want to duplicate the look I've created. So let's get started completing the projects in this awesome box. It's time to let your creativity flow. Here's a quick look at how everything's going to come packaged in your box. You're going to have some instructions and a couple other inserts in there, but everything in your box is going to be color-coded. I suggest the easiest way to find everything is to just take everything out of the box and sort it by color. Once you do that, you're going to have a pile kind of like this. So all the blue labels are going to be your base items, your tools, and then your bonus items. Your bonus items in this box are a little extra. You've got this done for you wood bead garland, and then you're going to have this little accent and distress kit for your bonus crafting tool, and I'll talk about that in the video. The pink items are your ice cream shop items. The red labeled items are your 4th of July projects, and the orange items are your farm life projects. And this is a quick look at the 4th of July projects, the farm life projects, and ice cream shop as they are finished. Let's go over all the tools and extras that come in your kit and what you're going to need to provide to complete all your projects. First of all, you're going to get a batch of these flat end swabs that are great for applying paint in small areas, cleaning paint up, etc. And you'll find numerous uses for them. You're going to get these nice foam wedges for applying the paint on the small projects. They work great also for blending and accenting. You'll get a tube of gel super glue, which has a little applicator tip on it as well. It's more than enough to finish everything. For applying teeny bits of glue, you can use these toothpicks. You can also use the toothpicks to dig out any paint from the scored lines in your projects. And then you're getting a 3-pack of magnets and a metal disc. Those are for hanging the circle attachment to the top of your base piece. And then you're going to get a set of banner hooks for hanging the banners off the front of your base piece. Your bonus crafting tool this time is the De-Stress and Accent Kit with some antique wax, some special brushes, and then an emery board for some distressing. You're getting video and printed instructions, and they are very helpful for getting everything completed. You're getting some slotted stands to display your items in and help them stand up if you want them to stand up outside of the base pieces. And you're going to need to provide a few things on your own. You will need to provide your own paint. We do not include paint. We want you to use the colors that you like and the brands that you like, and it keeps the cost of the kits down if we don't have to pack it full of paint, and it helps on shipping too. You can use whatever brushes you want. We give you the foam wedges, but sometimes you have ones that you love and they're great for adding detail, etc. Use those. For smaller items, these paint markers work great. You can get a fine tip, a brush tip, all kinds of different ones at any craft store or big box store. Watercolor pencils are great for accenting, shading, etc. You'll find many uses for them, and again, you can get them anywhere. Sharp scissors for cutting ribbon and string, and then you're going to want to gather up some paper plates to use as palettes for your paint, and you can mix your paint on them and then just toss them when you're done. And you'll want to find a little bit of masking tape or painter's tape to attach your small projects down, mask off parts if you're doing stripes, things like that. And just for general cleanup, I like to have a pack of baby wipes, wet wipes, Clorox wipes around, anything like that to clean things. We are going to start painting our base pieces first. I am going to go over the painting on these in great detail, and then we'll be using the same techniques throughout all our other projects. I won't show step-by-step painting on everything, but I will refer back to the project and instructions where I do show the painting, so we can move things along and this video isn't taking up your entire day. And our base pieces for these projects are going to be the barn base, the interchangeable gnome base. You're getting your done for you garland, and then your little cutting board tag base that we will hang the interchangeable tags off of. Our first base piece is going to be our most detailed, and like I said, I'm going through everything in detail. It's the barn. These are all your pieces, and they're also listed in your booklet. Make sure you have them all. And this is what the first one I did looks like finished. And I used a different kind of wood on this than the one I'm showing you and the one that's in your kit, but you need to see what it looked like all finished. So this is what it looks like in all packaged up with that blue label on it, and it'll say barn base. And then you're going to want to find the magnets and banner hooks as well. And this is just a quick view of how the base pieces go together and everything fits together, and we're going to go over that in greater detail later on in the video. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to paint the barn base. I use this Crimson Red by Waverly, and I'm going to use a bigger brush for this, or you could use a sponge applicator too that comes in your kit. And then you're going to want something to drag through those lines to make sure the paint lines stay crisp, to show that siding look that we're going with on this barn. You can use your toothpick, you can use that little pin pen tool that we gave out a couple of kits ago, or even just a straight pin is going to work just fine. And then you're going to want to get out your Distress and Accent kit and the antique wax and the little emery board as well. But first things first, I'm going to use little makeup wedges to just dip in the paint and then bring it to the edges. And while the paint is still wet on this Crimson Red, I'm going to go ahead and get out my pin pen tool or whatever you want to use to dig out those scored lines. It works best when it's wet because you can get anything out. You can drag it through a few lines, and then every once in a while you're going to want to take a paper towel or dip it into your sponge or anything like that to just clean off the tip of whatever it is you're dragging through your lines. But you can see how they become crisp again. I do 2 coats of the red on the barn base, and then what you end up with is this nice bright red barn, which is, for the purposes of mine, much too bright red. I want mine to look like it's been out in the sun and dirt for a few years, so I'm going to use the antique wax and all of the little distress tools. Like I'm taking the emery board to any place where the edges are going to show, and just taking a little bit off the edges. And then I'm taking the emery board and rubbing it all over the base piece of the barn as well. And you can just brush off the dust that you get, or take a old t-shirt or something like that, cut it up, and get the dust off that way. I'm going to take my antique wax just a little bit, and I'm taking the 2 brushes, dipping it in, wiping it across to get kind of a streaky effect. And then I'm taking that old t-shirt that I've cut up and just rubbing it in really, really hard to kind of mute it down and just give that dirty look. When it first goes on, it's a little shiny, and then after that it gets dull. So don't be worried about the shiny look that you get at first. It does tone down, and you can see it doesn't look great yet, but when you keep working with it is how, layer upon layers, how you get that distressed look. And so again, I'm just taking that t-shirt, rubbing it in really hard, and getting it all over on the inside. I'm not worrying about the edges so much because some of those are going to be covered up by the roof pieces. So finally, what I end up doing, just to get even more of a look, is I take the antique wax and I put a little bit right on the base piece itself. I take my t-shirt and just wipe it all over and get it. I just want a nice muted look to it. The bright red was just a little much. And I just, again, am going for that dirty look. If you do not want to go for that look, you can skip this step. It's totally optional. You could paint your barn a different color, but I just like the traditional red barn. I grew up on a farm, so I'm trying to make it look like, everything on our farm was a little dirty, especially the barns. They were well worn. So once that's done, then we're going to get to work on all our outside pieces. Now, I did mine white. You can do white marker or white paint. To do the white paint, you're going to just take one of your makeup wedges, again, the foam wedges, dip it in just a little bit of paint, dip off the excess, and then just pounce it on there. And that way you don't get a lot of paint into the grooves. You want to keep, especially those little side slots, free of glumps of paint, because that's where your glue is going to go on. You want your pieces to fit together. So I do that, and you can do one coat to get that kind of unstark, that weathered look, or you can do 2 coats. Then we're going to come back with our antique wax and get the weathered look. On the smaller pieces, like your little hip hayloft door, you're going to want to go ahead and just use a marker for that. It's just easier. But if you have to, you can do the same method that I just showed. Now, on the shelf piece and the inside of the fence pieces, we can leave those undone, but I like to finish them off with the antique wax just to give them a finished look. So you're just going to take a small amount, get it on your rag, and just start rubbing it in on those unfinished areas. I just like the look of the inside of my fence, especially, to be finished. It just, it's something people could see from time to time. So I like to take the time to apply a little something on the back just to give it a more finished look. I did not put anything on the back of my barn, but you certainly could. You could also use that as your practice surface for painting things, etc. But here I'm just going in with the foam wedge on this one and going in, and that just works better with all the slots and everything as opposed to the rag. And I'm doing the fence front, and I will do the 2 little side pieces as well. And if I ever feel I'm too heavy-handed with it, again, I'll just take my t-shirt or rag or whatever, finger, anything, and just rub it in. So this is what all our little pieces look like, finished off on both sides. And the final thing I'm going to do is do a little antique distressing on the fence pieces too. They're going to be getting, if it was out in the real world, they would be getting the most wear and tear, dirt kicked up on them, etc. So I'm just doing a combination of the makeup wedge, using what's left over, getting a little bit on a brush, either the large brush or small brush, it doesn't matter. You get a different look with each one. You can just experiment and see what you like. But I'm doing it across the front and on all the edges. And then here I'm doing the little one, and there's a little bit more on that one, so I'll just rub that in more. But this is what the different stiff bristle brushes give you. And then when you're done with them, just run them under a little soapy water and then get that excess paint off, and they're ready to go on your next project. But this is what all the pieces look like once I have the fence pieces distressed. On the roof, I'm not going to distress them as much, but I am doing just a little bit on the edges. And same thing I will do with the little hayloft door and the circle as well, just getting them a slight distressed look to tie everything in together so it just isn't so stark red, stark white. So now it's time to start putting everything together on our barn. We will start off by doing our base pieces and just kind of do a little dry fit first, just to make sure everything goes together. You know how it goes together so that when you apply your glue, it's going to go together easily for you and you're familiar with it. So if you need to just get a little bit of glue, you can put it right on the edge of a toothpick and get just a little bit. Like on these, I'll show you later, but we put the glue in the notches. You'll see those little indents on everything. That is where the glue goes. So here is the first side brace. We'll start by doing one of the side braces. And remember that that brown is the inside, and on the side brace, I put just a little bit of glue on that bottom slot. That is what is going to go into that notch. And press that down and get that nice and set. Just a few seconds is all you need. And if you have excess glue, you can take your toothpick and just kind of run it along that edge, and it just absorbs it up. And then you're going to want to do the same thing on the other side. And then again in that notch. And you'll see where the flat part goes on the bottom and the little fence pickets or posts are what's pointing up. Okay, so now you're going to want to take your fence front and we're going to put that on next. So here again, just do a little match up so you see that everything lines up. But we are going to get glue into all of those notches. And I'm trying to show you here. It's hard to catch on camera with the notches, but you'll see when I tilt it, that's where all the glue goes. So then you're going to take your fence front and get that, do just a little bit on those lower slats and on the side holes there. And then you will line everything up. I like to start on one side, get it lined up, and then press it down in the middle and then the other side. That seems to be what works best for me. It's a tight, snug fit. If you've got a bunch of paint globbed in there, you're going to want to get that out beforehand. But then it's between the glue and the tight fit. It's pretty secure. So now we want to attach it to the barn itself. So then we're going to get glue on the back of the fence base. I'm just doing a little dry fit there. And I'm going to get glue in those notches, and then we are going to line it up and attach it to the barn base itself. And there we've got all those little notches there. Okay, so now it's ready to go on there. And again, it's a tight, snug fit between that and the glue. It should be very secure. And that is done, and everything lines up. So now the base part of the fence is complete, and now we are going to add on our roof parts, the circle, and the little door. So let's go ahead, and I like to start off by doing top down is what I like to do. I'm just doing a dry fit here of everything just to make sure. But I'm going to do the top roof piece first, and I'm going to take it off after I do a little dry fit. And I'm going to put some glue right down the middle of it. Not too much on the edge, and I'm trying not to be too gloppy with it. You don't need much. It's super glue, and it takes really well to this MDF that we use. So I'm doing a good lineup. If you see me take it off screen for a second, it's because I'm bringing it close up to my eyes to get a look at it. I have bad eyes, so I like to get a close-up look before I finish it. And I use clamps that were from a couple of kits ago to just hold everything down. If you don't have clamps, a clothespin works just as well. Now I'm doing the little circle again. I took it off camera to just line it up, make sure that I had it. There's an etched circle right on the top of the barn. It'll be kind of covered up by paint, but it will still be visible. Once that's on, there's a little etched circle for where the little metal disc goes. So I'm going to take and put a little glue in the center of that circle and then tap in and hold that metal disc. And that's going to be what your little magnet's attached to. The final roof piece is this hip roof piece, and you'll see there's notches right where it lines up. Again, I'm going to get my glue right down the middle, and you'll probably see me take it off screen here for a second to make sure I've got it lined up well, but that's just so my end product will look good. Like I said, I need to bring it up close, get a good look at it, make sure that it is all lined up, and then ready to roll. And then once you do have a few seconds, so kind of play with it, get it lined up, and then clamp it down. Final, there is a little rectangle for the hayloft door. So I'm going to get that on there, get that glue down the middle and a little bit on each side, and get that attached and hold it in place for a few seconds. My clamps don't reach there, so I'm going to just press it really hard. And then your barn shelf is complete, and this is what it looks like all finished. It's time to get to work on the interchangeable gnome base. This is a fun piece. This is all the pieces that you will get with it. Again, check your booklet for the still picture of it. And this is what it comes packaged like with a blue label. It'll say gnome base on it. And this is how I painted mine. And then each gnome project comes with a token for her and a little hat for her to wear. There's a notch and it just goes right behind the nose. And the hands are slightly elevated to hold the tokens. I'm trying to show you here. You can kind of see how things are raised off a little bit, and then it's got a removable stand that she stands in and holds her securely, so she can be displayed right on your shelf or to your tray with your other projects. And this is kind of a fun little version. We've got a male version of this gnome too that we'll use in a future kit, but this is what this one looks like here. And we are going to get started with going over all the pieces and what you need to paint and where you need to paint it. I did this one in blue. The one we're going to be working with today I did in the hazelnut, and I did white hair, but we're going to change that a little bit later. On this base, the only thing that you have to do is take your flesh colored marker, whatever flesh tone you want, and scribble in where the kind of legs are, right above the shoes. I again used hazelnut brown on the dress. I did white on the hair, but we're going to go over that with a marker and change it. And I did some accents with antique wax. These are the little spacers that are going to go right into, there is a little, what I want to say, scored out line to line them up. And the same for the nose. And I'm doing the nose in flesh colored as well as the hands. And the flesh color that I use is a ballerina pink. And then of course the shoes go on the bottom there. And so you can see I've already done the ballerina pink on the nose and the hands, and then I did black marker on the shoes, and I start to go to work on the hair. I do a little antique wax, and it's like, no, I'm going to make this one be blonde since I did the other one with white hair. I wanted to give a little more pop since we've got kind of a neutral dress. So I'm taking this bumblebee yellow Arteza marker, paint marker, and I'm just going over the top of that white. It really pops. It's really bright. I'm going to dull it down a little bit after I do it just to give it more of a hair-like look, I'm going to take my small brush there with some antique wax and go over it while the marker's still wet. And it gives it kind of like hair strand look or a highlighted ombre look to the hair. More realistic than just a flat color. Kind of hard to see on camera, but if you try this, you'll see. And if you don't like it, just paint over it again and start over. I'm also taking the antique wax and that's on the sponge, doing little details on the dress, taking my white marker and doing a little detail on the shoe. It's just, there's a little arc on the shoe. I'm just tracing over that and making a little hash mark. My white marker is going dry. I've used it so much, so you will see me dip it into rubbing alcohol to get it going again. And I'm just doing a little accent at the top of the nose. And I believe I do a little accent on each hand as well. And then I did a little white accent at the bottom of the dress. That's totally optional. You don't have to do those if you don't want. I just like the effect that it gives. So now I'm taking the hair and I'm fitting it right over the dress. It goes together just like a puzzle. And then I'm taking a little bit of glue into that scored area and I'm taking one of the spacers, and you want the fatter part of the spacer down and the skinnier part up at the top. Same thing here. And what this does is attaches the hair permanently to the base, so it's easier to glue it on the backer piece. So your dress and your hair are permanently attached. I'm doing the same thing with the nose. I'm going around the scored area and putting glue in. I'm being careful not to get any glue on the back of the nose where that notch is, because I don't want the hats to be stuck in that glue. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry really good before I finish. The next step is I'm taking the glue. I'm doing a dry fit first of all. Then I'm going to put glue on the back of the hair and dress, a little glue on the backer, and then I will line them up and attach them, and I'll use my clamps to hold them in place. But I do a little glue all over to make sure it's covered, and I do a little glue on the base, and that really, if you do glue on both pieces, especially when they're larger, it really gives you good adhesion. So now I'm just fitting that together, and I'm taking the shoes, doing a dry fit on each one of those, and attaching those as well. And I do a little bit on the base and a little bit on each shoe, again, to just get that double adhesion. But they just can be very small amounts. The glue really takes well on this MDF that we use for our projects. I choose it also because the paint takes really well on the MDF. And there I'm just making sure I've got that little strip in the middle free, because that's what's going to go into your slot. And then finally we will go ahead and attach our hands. Again, the fat part goes on the bottom. They kind of look like parentheses almost. There's that. And I will do the other hand just the same. You can see there's a little lift or a little spacer there, or a little space with the lifter, you know, and then that makes it easy for your tokens to be held in. All right, so she is complete as a base. She then will hold the tokens and the hats once it's all dry. This is what the stand looks like. If you look at it, there's more space on one side of the slot than the other. You want the wider part in the front and the narrow part in the back, and that's what makes her stand well. And then you take your hats from each project and the tokens, and then you'll put them in. That's from the 4th of July project we're doing next, but there's going to be 2 others that she will hold and use. The next base piece is super easy. It is our cutting board base, and it comes complete with a little stand. It is going to hold interchangeable tags that we are going to make for each set. It comes wrapped like this with a blue label. You'll get the cutting board base and the 2-piece stand. You slide the slots together and then the stand is ready. Then you will put the cutting board on it and it is ready to display the tags we are about to make. The next project is even easier. It is a done-for-you wood bead garland. All you have to do basically is take it out of the package and get it ready to display with your projects. It is a gift to you as a celebration of the first anniversary of our box and a thank you to my subscribers. And all the colors in it match the projects really well, and it is the perfect accent to your summer DIY decor kit quarterly box. The first collection we are going to work on is our 4th of July collection. Everything for this will have a red label on it in your box. We've got the little gnome in her hat, the interchangeable tag. We have the banner with the banner hooks. We have the little circle insert with the magnet that is on the back. We have the little Uncle Sam top hat, a star, and then that flag with a brace to mount it to the back of your barn. The first project we are going to tackle on the 4th of July collection is a striped star. It is a star overlay, a string, and a bead. So 4 pieces. You're going to want to make sure you have everything there. And basically it's just a base with an overlay that will go right on your cutting board with the bead and string. And what we're going to do is not show you how I painted it. I'm just going to tell you the colors I did and we'll get on with finishing the project. So there you're going to see I did the crimson red on the base and the white with the sponge dauber on the top. And now I'm just taking one of my foam wedges and I am just doing a little bit of accent with that antique wax around the edges. And now when it's time to put this together, it's pretty simple. This star can go on straight like I have done it before, or you can put it at any angle. So just kind of play with it, see what you like. I kind of finally like this last angle that I put it at. That's what I'm going to do it at on this one. And I'm going to take my glue and just put it across the stripes and a little bit on each tip, taking care not to put so much on that it oozes off. Then I just took it off screen to make sure I had it all aligned. And once I did, I held it firm for a few seconds and put my clamps on it. Now we're going to get to work on the string and bead. You were included in your kit a little bread tie. You're just going to fold your string in half. You're going to take that bread tie and you're going to take a scissor and just trim right up to that wire on one side. So it's a little bit more narrow and you can get it through the bead. You're going to fold it in half and then you're just going to take and place it right over that loop. Then you're going to take your needle, pull it through so that loop is on the other side of the hole, and then you're going to take the other side end of your string, pull it through that loop and pull it tight. Then it is all secure. You don't have to worry about tying a knot or anything. You're going to put your little needle back on and thread it through the bead, and this project is essentially done. The only thing left to do is to attach it to our cutting board base. So you're going to take the base, place a star in the front, wrap the strings around the back, and I just do a little shoelace bow and trim off some of the excess, and then it's easy to just pull off and change out when it's ready for the next tag. My project is the gnome hat and token. It is these 3 pieces, a gnome, a larger star, and a small star. So this is what the one that I painted already looks like. I did blue on the hat and red on the stars, and it just slides right on in the top. And then she will go on her stand. But that is what it looks like all together. And it comes packaged with all the other hats and tokens, and you can use any hat with any token. This is just the hat that I chose to use with this token set. So I'm going to show you quick what it looks like all painted up. I just used the sponge or the foam wedges to paint it. I did an ocean blue Waverly color on the hat, and I did the crimson red on the stars. I'm just finishing off with a little detail with my white marker, a couple of little hash marks and dots and dashes on the hat stars. And then this is essentially ready to go. You can antique up and do accents on the hat and stars too if you want with your antique wax. I am just going to attach this star with a small amount of glue, the smaller star, on the hat. It can go anywhere on the hat as long as you don't have it near the tab, because that's what slides in behind that nose. So that's what her hat looks like, and you tuck in her little star, and she is ready to go. You put her in her stand, and she will stand up next to your 4th of July display. Our next 4th of July project is the mini flag circle insert. It consists of the base, a star, and an adhesive magnet that goes on the back. And then it is inserted in that circle at the top of your barn. And the one I'm going to show you comes packaged with the banner with the red label in your box. I went ahead and pre-painted the little base white and then etched out the lines. I just used my white chalk paint, and then I'm going to go right over that with the red marker in 2 of the lines on the bottom and do a blue marker at the top with the star. I did a royal blue and then just a true red marker. They are fine point markers, and what I like about those is I can get right up to the lines with that fine point marker and then color in. And if I get any little leaking out of the lines, a big amount, I can just go over it again with white paint, or I can just go in with my little detail tool or my straight pen or toothpick and kind of etch away at the overage, and it just kind of blends in, and then it's a nice crisp line again. So you can kind of see that's what I'm doing there. And then I go ahead and take my blue marker, and I'm going to color that upper half where that star is. I'm going to go ahead and color right over that little etched out star. It's just there for reference. So when I go to place my star on there, I'm going to be able to see it. You just can't see it on camera once I color over with the dark color. And like I said, that little star that we're going to put on has an adhesive backing, so you don't have to bother trying to glue such a tiny, tiny piece. But this is what that looks like when I have that done. Now, while that is drying, I am going to work on the star. I'm going to show you how, if you don't have markers, how you can paint super tiny things. So I put just a little bit of white paint, just that white chalk paint, on my paper plate. I'm taking one of my Q-tips that came in the kit, dipping the pointed edge of it in the paint, and then just taking my little star and dabbing that paint on there. And you can do 1 or 2 coats. It's so tiny though, 1 coat will probably do it. And that's how you can paint really small things without markers. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and get that magnet attached to the back. I peel the backing off, and then these have a pretty good adhesive, but sometimes there's either dust or something on the backer and it just doesn't stick very well. So I like to do just a small drop of glue to help the adhesion stay permanently, because we don't want that magnet coming off. And now I'm going to take the backer off of my star and just place that into that little scored area. And then you have the complete circle, and it's ready to go with the rest of your 4th of July decor. It's time to paint the 1776 America banner for your 4th of July collection. It consists of the banner, the adhesive back letters and words, and the hooks, and it is packaged with your circle insert with the red labels in your package. I have went ahead and painted the blue base, or the base blue, with that ocean blue chalk paint that we've been using on our other projects. And I did a red marker for the words, and this one I'm going to do a silver marker. I had done white before, but I'm going to try the silver, and then it just goes on the fence with the hooks. So the first thing I'm going to do after I paint that base, I am going around after it's dry with my emery board that's in your bonus kit, and I am just doing a little edging on it and a little bit of scuffing up across the front. Now it's hard to see, but there is an etched in part for the word America and the number 1776. Now I'm taking my red marker and I'm just going to go do the whole word America with that. It gives it great coverage and the color really pops against the blue. Then I'm going to do the same thing, repeat that process with each number. So I'm taking this, and this is a new silver marker I'm testing out. If it does well, it might show up as a bonus tool in a future kit. So I like the way it's covering so far, so we'll see how it does throughout all the projects. But that's the 6. It's got a nice coverage on it, nice shine. That's what it looks like next to one that is not colored yet. So I'm going to repeat that process, get everything all colored, and then just brush any dust or debris I have off of the base to make sure that my adhesive items stay on nice and strong. So for this adhesive, you just pull off that backing that's on the back and discard it. And then I like to kind of hover my adhesive piece right over the base to kind of line it up, and I don't really press down the whole thing until I have it all lined up. I'll start on the left, try to line it up really good on the right, and then press it down. Then I'm going to repeat that process for each of the numbers. Again, there is a small etched part. You have a couple of seconds before it's permanent, but I like to really get in there and get it right on the first try, and then kind of lightly press it down, and then really press it down once I'm sure I have it on there nice and straight. So I'm just going to repeat the process for each number and get the other 7 and get the 6 on there. And then once that is done, we'll find our banner hooks. You get 2 hooks for each banner, so you should have 6 total in your package. And they are packaged all together in a little white envelope along with the magnets. And then I'm going to just insert those right on in, and then they go in those holes and then just go right over the front of that fence. And this one is ready to display, and we will start working on our insert items next. Our next 4th of July project is the Uncle Sam top hat. It is a base with an overlay, and it just goes right into that barn insert when we're done with it. And it comes with all the other 4th of July inserts in a package with red labeling. And this is how we painted it. We did the base in white, and the top hat, I just did that same blue with a sponge. And if you want to do that with a marker too, that would work great. And I just did white chalk paint on the base. And I am going to paint some red accents inside some of those stripes. I want to do red on the first stripe and the third stripe, and then I want to do red on the bottom and leave the stars white. So what I'm going to do here is lay the overlay over the top. I'm going to trace on the inside of the places where I want to paint red. So I am painting this around, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom to just give me a general idea of where I want to go ahead and color in with my red marker. I will color a little bit outside of those because obviously they're inside of where I need to be, but it gives me a good starting place So I just take my red fine tip marker, because this is a very small area, and I know I can go all the way to the edge of the hat, and I need to go up a little farther, down a little farther, and over to the right a little bit more as well, because there is that border in between. And what I'm going to do is just keep laying that top hat overlay over the top and making sure there's no white. You can see where I want the red to be. So I just keep filling it in and looking, and I see on the right side there I'm a little bit low on what I need for red. So I just and I can take it all the way up to the top too, which is kind of nice. So there, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do the other red stripe that I wanted in the very same way. And then I want to do the bottom as well. So I'm taking the bottom, I am coloring that in. I'm just using the bigger marker, and I know with that one I can go all the way around to the edge and to the bottom, so it's a little easier to color. I don't have to be quite so precise. And once I have it how I like it, then it's just time to glue everything together. Pretty easy on this one. I just go on the back. In the thicker spots, I put glue between the stars, so on the stripes, a little bit on the top. Remember to get precise glue. You can put some on your toothpick and go like that to get because it's a thin border, to get it very precise. Or if you get too much glue in one spot, you can use that toothpick to take off the excess glue. Then I'm just doing a good job of lining it up and holding it nice and tight. And once it's done, I take a look at it, and if I've got any paint coming over on the edge or it looks funny, you can take a black or a brown marker and just draw right along that edge and kind of cheat that a little bit, and then it looks just fine. Then this particular hat, if you want it to stand on its own, there is a stand in here that's going to work for you. There's a stand with a little bit of a wider opening in it. You can just put this hat in there, and it's going to sit at a little bit of an angle, but it stands nicely then inside there if you wanted to tuck the star behind or something like that. That is what it looks like when it's complete, and we are ready to go on to the next project in this pack, which will be the star that we will tuck right behind that hat. Next insert we will be making is a Stars and Stripes insert. It is another 2-layered project with a base and an overlay. It is going to come with all your other inserts with the red labeling on it, with the top hat and the flag. And this is what we did to paint it. I did that same pretty ocean blue on the outside of the overlay, and then I did the white chalk paint on the star itself and drug through the little shiplap lines to give them good definition. And what I did for those lines, then I wanted them to be red in the skinny area, so I took my skinny red marker and I colored in all those lines. Again, I'm just getting in super close to the edges and then filling in the middle. And I do that on all the lines. I'll show you here on one, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. And again, you just cheat up to those lines as best you can with that thin marker and then fill it in. And then I'm going to do all the other ones. And here's a look at it when I have it all done. And the blue star overlay I just did in one color, and then I'm taking that emery board and going around the edges to give it that nice rough look that we've been doing to expose the edge a little bit. I just like that look for some reason. For this, I'm thinking more of like a rustic summer look on everything. And if you really want it rustic, instead of the stark white, ivory on that star would look really good too, more of an off-white or a cream. Here you can make these stripes go any direction that you want. I did them going up and to the right on the other star. I think I'm going to do them the opposite way on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and dab my glue on the stars and the letters and little places here and there. It's kind of a thin overlay, so you don't want to do big glops of glue. You want to keep it as tight as possible. And here I'm just lining everything up. If you place your fingers in those indents, that really helps it get lined up, and you can clamp it if you need to. But this one is done, and I'm going to tuck it behind that hat that we already have on the stand. Kind of looks good that way, and we are going to be moving on to our flag project next. Our next project is the layered flag, and there's a little brace for it, and this is our final 4th of July project. The flag can face either way, whichever way you want to do. Just think of which way you want it to hang off your barn and then make it that way. I made mine first one to go off to the right. I think I'm going to be doing the same with the second one, but you can see how it can go either way. There is this little bracket, those little pieces. Then we make a little place for it to hang off the back. So that's why I said think about which way and what direction, because there's really no way for that flag to stand otherwise. And ignore the ugly back of mine. My first barn that I did, I made out of a different kind of wood that was too thin and it broke, so I had to use that popsicle stick to brace it in. But anyway, I did the base in white and I did the overlay all in red. And then what I'm going to do is take my blue marker and color over the red, so I get a dark blue. And then for the post, I had done the one in black, but now I'm going to use the silver one to just make it stand out and pop a little bit more. So I take my thin blue marker of the one that I want to use. I believe it was like a sapphire blue. And I just outline that little square first where it meets the stripes, just to give it some definition. But the other part, I just color it in then around the star with my larger blue marker of the same one. It was like a sapphire blue or Egyptian blue. I can't remember which one, but either way, it works. It's a nice dark blue over the red. And once I have that all colored in, then I'm going to color in the handle using my silver marker after that blue dries. I just go right over the top and do that. So this is what it looks like before I color the handle. And like I said, I'm going to use the silver, which I like that better than the black. It made it pop more. And I was just thinking like a silver flagpole is what I was thinking. It gave it more as an impression of. And so I go ahead and I get that all done. And then once I have that done, it's time to glue the two pieces together. You want to be sure that you don't squeeze the little stripes of the flag at all when you're doing it, because otherwise the bottom won't match up very well of the stripes. But you just want to put some glue, just a tiny amount on each stripe, and then on the main part and a little bit on the handle. And like I said, don't squeeze those stripes too much, because you don't want to distort them when you're gluing them. And kind of cheat it up and match everything up, and it should be good. And while that is drying, we will start to put together the brace for the back of our sign. And here I'm just taking out any little bit of glue with a toothpick. So you're going to just take your inserts out and look at the back of your sign and kind of figure out where you want that flag to be. I'm going to look where I had it on the other one. Again, ignore the ugly popsicle sticks in the back. Mine broke and I just had to fix it. So I see where I've got the first initial kind of H-shaped brace, and I put a little bit of glue on the back of that. And then I'm going to put it way over on the back left, right by where that little lip where the hip roof barn comes out. And then I'm going to take my glue, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom portion of the H first, and I'm going to take one of the little, I guess, D-shaped items, and I'm putting that in so it sticks out, and then the other one so it goes right underneath it like it's a little brace. And this is what it looks like from the side. Looks like a little shelf almost. Then I'm going to take my glue and put it on the top of the H there. And I'm going to take the little bracket that has the hole in it and put that right in that notch. and just hold it until it's good and dry. And then after a few seconds, it's strong enough to hold the flag in place. So you can put it right in there, and then your flag has a place to be propped up. And that is the end of this project. Well, we have completed our first collection, the 4th of July collection. Here's a brief overview of everything we made. Here is the barn with all the inserts, banner and circle tag to go off of it, and our little gnome and the cutting board tag as well. Let me know what you think of all of these projects in the comments. It is time to start our farm life collection. We will be making all these projects: the circle tag, the little gnome with the carrots. The garland, of course, goes with it, your banner, your circle insert. This is your farmer gnome, and then your stacked animals, and this little windmill. All of these go together and coordinate really well with the barn. I'm really excited to see what you think of these projects. Our first project for the Farm Life collection is this weather vane tag. It consists of a rooster, kind of a tobacco basket pattern, and string and bead, and you're going to find it packaged with all the other tags, and it has the orange tag on the front of the package. It can go either way, the rooster, and the tag has got some indentations or scored lines in it that you will want toward the front. And how I painted this was I painted the rooster black, and I just did that antique wax method with the rag over the tobacco basket circle that goes in the background. So basically I just took the rag and then I let, the antique wax kind of settle in. I didn't have to scrape it out too much because it automatically made those lines a little darker, but if you want to scrape it out, you certainly can. And the rooster I did with black paint, but you could just use a black marker as well. Once you are done with all your painting, and if you want, I like to distress the rooster just a little bit so it isn't so stark, so it looks a little more authentic, like it's been sitting up on the top of the roof or something like that. So I did the emery board around the edges of that, and then it's time to kind of position where you want it. And I found that there is a line right in the middle of that background of the tag that the middle of the weather vane matches up with perfectly. So that's how I lined mine up. So I'm putting glue here and there and down on the middle, and then I'm just lining that up on that middle line of the tag as best as I can. And then I'm just using my clamps to clamp it down while I work on the bead. So I'm going to take my same bread tie that I used earlier and folding my string in half and making that loop and putting the bread tie through the loop. And then I am feeding the loop through the hole and then pulling the string through just like we did on the other tag. Then I'm replacing my needle on the string and putting the bead through that. And this is ready to go now on your cutting board tag. And I'm doing the same thing as I did with the 4th of July one. I'm just wrapping the two strings around the back and making a shoelace bow to attach it, and then cutting off if there's a lot of excess string, but leaving enough so I could retie it in the future if needed. And that is the end of this project. It's time to make the Farm Girl gnome hat and token for our Farm Life collection. It consists of the gnome, a little sun, the center of the sun, and a carrot token. You're going to find them with an orange label with all the other hats and tokens. This is the hat I chose for this project. It can point either way, but I'm going to end up making it point right. It just looks a little better that way to me personally. And I've got the sun, the middle of the sun, and the carrots that I need to paint. So I painted the hat. I turned it so the hook was pointing to the right on the top and painted it with hazelnut. I use yellow on the sun, and then I'm going to use orange in the middle. And then for the carrot, I'm going to do, of course, orange on the bottom and green on the top. Excuse me, and I'll add a little accent on everything with our antique wax as well. So I'm going to go ahead with my silver marker since my white one has dried up. And I'm going to do some accents on the side. These are optional. I like the character they do give the project. I just do a line and a couple of dots between each line and then a little hash mark on there. And it just gives it that little extra that I like on my projects. Again, totally optional for you. So the middle of the sun, I did have it yellow just like the exterior, but I want to give it that two-tone look, so I'm going to color the middle orange. And then I'm taking that same orange marker and I'm coloring the bottom of the carrots. And the nice thing about when you use the markers is a lot of the paint does not get into those lines. You can still take your straight pin or pin pen or toothpick and dig out any paint that gets in, but very little does when you use a marker, and that's why I love them for the smaller projects. And for the top of the carrot, I just go in with a fine point marker and get really close to that line where the carrot ends and the leaves begin at the top. And then I'm just going to color it in, and then I will repeat the process on the other side of the carrot, and that's what it looks like all done. So now we just need to start putting together our gnome after we add a little detail to it. So I'm going to take my antique wax, just a drop is all I need, and then I'm going on the narrow end of one of our makeup wedges or foam wedges, and I'm just going lightly across the outer edges of that carrot and lightly across the outer edges of the hat. And then I'm going to add on the right side of the hat, you'll see in a minute, I'll add a little bit more, and it gives it almost an ombre effect, which I kind of like. It gives more of a rounded dimension to that hat. And that's all the detailing I'm going to do. So now all we need to do is figure out where we want the sun to be on the hat. Again, it can go anywhere as long as it does not interfere with that tab. So I will do just a tiny bit of glue on the outside. I'm going to have it hang off the edge just a little bit. And then I'm going to take the middle of the sun part in that hole there, put a little glue, and then do the middle. Then I take a toothpick. I had a little ooze of glue. I'm just getting that off with a toothpick. And then I'm going to get that to fit in. Now if it's too snug, you can take your emery board and file off a little bit of the back of the tab, and then it should fit just fine. And that is the end of our gnome project. It's time to do the mini rooster circle insert for our Farm Life collection. It consists of the little unfinished sun circle, a rooster, and a magnet that goes on the back, so it will attach to the circle at the front of your barn. And it's going to come packaged with the Farm Life banner and the orange colored tags. I did a black marker on the rooster. I did a yellow marker all over the sun. Then I'm going to take my orange marker and do the bottom of the sun, and I take my emery board and do a little distressing on the rooster itself. The orange marker is the fine tip one, so I can get right up to that edge of that bottom of the circle and just give it that little extra dimension that kind of peeks through and gives the illusion of a sunset or a sunrise. I guess if it's a rooster, it'd be a sunrise, right? So I color that in, and then once that is done, I let that dry before moving on to the next step, which is I take just a tiny bit of our antique wax, that skinny portion of one of our wedges again, and I do just a small bit of shading around the yellow portion of that circle to give it that dimension that we want again with our projects. So I take the adhesive backing off the magnet, again do a small dab of glue in the center and get that attached. And that is the finished part of the sun, and then all there is to do is attach your rooster. So you just want to make sure you get him in the middle, and he could stick off the top a little bit. It's not a big deal. You can smooth your glue out with your toothpick if need be. I had it a little gloppy and I wanted to lessen that. And then I just give it a good push down to adhere it, and this project is ready to put in the circle of your barn and display with the rest of your farm life projects. We will now start making our farm life banner. It consists of the banner base, the two words farm life, which are adhesive backed, and your two little hooks. It comes packaged with the circle insert, and it will have those orange labels on it. And we are going to go over all the techniques that we used on the backer and the words. So for the words, I went ahead and colored them with that silver metallic marker, the same one I've been using, and I like the look of that. And I am going to do the word life the same way that I did farm with that silver metallic marker. And that is what those look like all done. Now the next technique I'm going to show you is how to get kind of a faux wood look with this MDF, so you look like you have some weathered wood or something with a little bit of a wood grain to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out kind of a lighter brown marker. The one I used on the left is a little too orange for me. This one is less orange. It's called yellow ochre. And then I'm just fluffing out. I've cleaned my brushes and I'm just kind of fluffing them out really good because I want to get kind of a wispy effect with those brushes. But I am coloring in the base of the banner with this yellow ochre, and I'm just digging out those grooves to make sure I don't have anything in them. Then I'm taking the larger of the two brushes that came in your Distress and Accent kit, and I am dragging it over the top of that yellow ochre background. And just doing it with a very light hand and dry brush to give it kind of a wispy look to it. And if it looks a little too harsh, we're going to soften it up here in a minute, so don't worry about that. Then I'm taking the smaller of the two brushes and I am dragging that across with some white paint. I just did a little test swatch in the back at first and then all over. And then to soften the effect of everything, I am taking that emery board, I'm going around the edges and over this top surface of it, and then it just gives it more of a weathered wood look. Finally, I clean out those grooves, and then I'm deciding how I want to place my letters. I don't have an outline as a guide on this project, but that's fine. They're kind of a scripty look, so if they're a little off center or crooked, it really doesn't matter. But I am just anchoring the word life with one of my clamps. Again, you could use a clothespin if you wanted, or painter's tape, whatever. And then I am going to realign the word farm so it's spaced evenly with the word life from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, basically. Then I'm just removing the adhesive backing on the second word life and putting that on the sign and pressing that down. After that, we will add the banner hooks to the banner and get that attached to the front of our project and hang it off that fence. And that is the end of your farm life banner project. Our next farm life project is the animal stack shelf insert, and it consists of this animal stack and the three words with adhesive backing. It is packaged with your Windmill and the farmer gnome with the orange tags. You can have this go whichever direction you want, and then Like I said, the 3 words are adhesive backed. So I'm going to have my animal stack, I'm going to paint it black, and I am going to have it pointing to the left. That's how I prefer it. And I used my silver marker on each of the words, and I did black chalk paint on it, but you could use black marker as well. And then I am going to take my emery board and do just a slight distressing around all the edges and across the surface as well, and just wipe the excess dust off after you are done so that your words will adhere evenly. And I am going to take each word, remove the backing, put the egg on the chicken, put the bacon on the pig, and put the milk on the cow. And I'm just centering them in the center of each animal. You can just eyeball this. It's pretty simple. And once that is done, then the project itself is done as well. Now you can take your stands and you can make this stand within the barn by using a stand, or you can just lean it up toward the back. Or if you wanted it outside of the barn, the stands work well. But I'm just putting mine off to the left-hand side of the barn, and your animal stack is complete. Our next project is the Windmill in the Farm Life collection, and that consists of the windmill base and the blade overlay. This comes packaged with the other shelf insert projects and with the orange labels on it in your box. And this is how the one I did turned out. And basically you just get everything painted and then layer the 2 pieces. So I'm going to show you how mine turned out painted and then show you how we do the detail. So I did a coat of the antique wax on the base, and I painted the overlay with a layer of the white chalk paint, and then I'm going to do silver on the blades and black in between the 2 blades. So on the base of it, I do want to add just a touch of distressing. So I'm taking that white chalk paint on the smaller of the 2 brushes and brushing it over the legs. I'm not bothering with the top because that's going to get covered up by the overlay anyway. And that's what that looks like once I get a little bit of white on there, and then I go over with the emery board to kind of tone that down just a bit. Then what I'm going to do is get to work on the blades. So I did do this base coat of white. I was thinking I was maybe going to keep it white, but I decided I really would rather have the silver blades. So you don't have to do that base coat of white. That was just an option that I did. You could just go ahead and color them silver. You know that'll work just fine. And then between each blade, I am doing the black marker, and I'm just using my fine tip one because it's such a skinny little surface. And I get that between each blade, and there is a little etched notch out that makes it a little bit easier to know where to stop with your marker. So that's what the overlay looks like when that is all done. Then it's just a simple matter of lining it up and getting your glue on. So I always like to do that little dry run first before I apply my glue, just to make sure everything lines up right. And I just do a thin strip of glue on the back of each blade. Once I have that done, then it's just a matter of getting the blade overlay on the base, getting it lined up, and I kind of line it up with my fingers off of it a little bit, and then once I see I'm nice lined up, I press everything together. And once that is done, I am going to go ahead and take my clips, clip that, clamp that down for a few minutes, and then I will go find a stand that's going to fit it. I can put it in the stand if I want and have it set outside the barn, but if I want it in the barn, I can just lean it up toward the back and not have to use the stand. And that is the end of our windmill project. The Farmer Gnome is the final project in our Farm Life collection. Consists of the base, buckle, hat, eggs, hands and feet, and a nose. And it will be packaged with all our other shelf inserts for the Farm Life collection with orange labels. So here's a look at how I started on the base. I did a coat of white around the whole base, etched out the lines for his pants and for the brim of the hat and the beard, and then painted the rest of the items as such. So I've got white on the eggs, yellow on the hat, and then I'm going to do brown on his feet, and I'm going to do the blue where his blue jeans are. So for his pants, I took a blue marker, two of them actually, one and they are in the same shade, the fine tip marker and then the bigger marker. I went in with the fine tip marker along the lines first so I wouldn't bleed over onto the beard, and then I took the bigger of the two in the same color and then blended that in and colored out the rest. It just went faster that way. Then I am going to get to work on the rest of him while that dries. So for his little feet, or no, for his nose, I did flesh colored marker on just the bare MDF. Now I had done a coat of white on each hand. Why, I don't know, but I did, thinking I was going to do something with the white, but instead I just went over with my flesh colored marker on that. You could skip that white step and just color them in with your flesh colored marker like we did the nose. And his little feet, I did each of those in the hazelnut. Now for his buckle, I did the metallic marker on the buckle, and that's got an adhesive to it. So for the hat, you do need to color in that little black band along it. So I took my black fine tip marker and I went across, in along the lines first, and then I filled that in, and that's what that looks like. And you'll see there's still a little outline for where the buckle needs to go. But that is how I got the base stripe of that done. For the eggs, I went ahead with my black marker and I did a little of that detailing with a dot and a dash here and there to give a little more detail on those eggs. Now for the hat, where that's going to go is I want to create this shadow at the top and at the bottom corners that are going to be exposed. So I did the hat top and those bottom corners, and I just tried not to get onto where the beard is. And then I'm going to line that hat up and see how that looks. If it looks how I want, then I'm going to finish the detailing on the hat. What I'm going to do here is take, again, just a bit of that antique wax and the narrow spot of our makeup wedge and get just a little bit of antique wax edging going along all the edges of the hat and blending that in as best I can with that makeup sponge. And that's going to blend that in and give that dirty kind of rounded appearance to the hat. I end up going kind of all over the surface and then blending it in. You can go as heavy-handed on this as you want. I like the look of the distressing on the hat. I think of an old straw hat that's been outside, weathered. It's going to have dirt and a little character to it. So now all we need to do is add just a little bit of that antique wax to the edge of the eggs as well. Eggs in the farm are never pure white. They've always got a little tinge of something on them. And then I'm taking my emery board and I am giving a little sand to each of the shoes to make them look weathered as well. Obviously, if they are been outside, kicking around in the dirt, they are going to have some wear and tear on them. So now let's get our buckle attached to our hat. Just remove that adhesive backing, and I have it, there's a little outline to go by, and I put the little bump on the belt pointing to the right of the hat. Then I get the hat glued, and lined up, and you can see that shadowing effect we have at the top and then at each corner of the hat. Next, I'm going to do the nose. There is just a slight little bump out in the hat, and I get a bit of glue in that and on the back of the nose. Next, we will line up our eggs. So I'm putting them right in the middle, directly below the nose, just a small gap there. And then I am going to do a little bit of glue on the back of the hand. Slide that in on the left side and repeat the same process on the right side. You can do your glue right on the gnome if you want. And then finally we just need to add his shoes. So you can do the glue on the back of the shoe, or you can do the glue right on the base of the gnome as well, whichever works out best for you. And then you just line the shoe up exactly with the bottom of the gnome. When he is done, we do have a stand that fits him. It's one with a wider slot. You will put him in there, and then he sits right in front of the stacked animals and the windmill on your farm life display. Here's our look at all the projects together from the Farm Life collection. I added in the garland so you can see how the colors of that do tie in very nicely to this collection. And now we just have one more collection to go. It is time to start working on our final collection, which is this ice cream shop collection. We are going to start working on the ice cream tag first. We'll now start on the cutting board tag for the ice cream shop collection. It consists of the cone overlay, the cone base, and then you also get bead-in string in this too. The first thing I did was I did a base coat of hazelnut all over the cone base. I like that color for a cone. And then I'm going to take my brown markers and do some work on that and do some highlight with a white watercolor pencil. The first thing I'm doing is I'm taking my fine tip brown marker and I am going in and doing that outline and filling in the smaller parts first. Then I'll take my larger brown marker and color in the overlay that's going to go over that, but I wanted to get those chocolate drips first. So I'm just taking that cone overlay and lining that up to see how far I need to go with the brown marker on the bottom part for the chocolate drips so it shows, I guess, correctly. So I'm just doing that, and then I'm taking my brown marker, which this one's almost dry too. You'll have to understand, I have had these markers for probably 3 years and I color hundreds of things with them. So eventually they're going to dry out. So I just need to order a new batch or at least a few new colors to replace the ones that are drying out. But you do get a lot of life out of these markers. I just use mine a lot. So I did a couple of coats of it and you can see it didn't get quite as dark as the first one that I did, but that's fine. So I'm doing a little shading in here since my white marker dried out too, and I am taking a white watercolor pencil and I am just doing some shading in some different places to get different accents to it, and I can blend that in with water if I want. I'm trying here with my dried up white marker, but it's just not happening very good. So we're going to go with how it is and flow with that. So the final step then is to take a little antique wax and my sponge, and I'm going to take that and do just a little shading on that cone just to give it that, again, dimension that we're trying to get on all our projects. A little more lifelike look to it, not such a stark clean paint job, and getting that. So finally then what we're going to do is take a bit of glue, put it on the back of the cone top overlay, put a little bit on the base, get that lined up on the edges, and once it's all lined up, then I'm going to take my clamps, clamp it down, and we will then get to work on the bead and string after that is all dyed, or after that is all set. And so I'm doing the same thing with our little bread tie, and I'm taking that, I did the loop through the hole at the top and then took the string through that loop and re-putting on my bread tie needle and getting our bead attached. Then finally we will attach this just exactly how we attached our other ones. We'll take the strings, flip over to the back, and do that shoelace bow on the back. And then this project is ready to display with the rest of your ice cream shop collection. We are going to start on the gnome hat and token for our ice cream gnome, and it consists of this hat, a heart overlay, and the cone for them to hold, and it's with all your other gnome hat and tokens, and it will have a pink label denoting it's part of the ice cream shop collection. And this is a look at the one that I painted already, and we're going to do this one in just a little bit of a different color combo. First of all, I did white on the base of the hat. Reason being, I'm going to take markers in different shades of pink and do kind of an ombre technique. What I'm doing here on the back of a paper plate is just taking different pink markers that I have and kind of seeing what shades they are and what I want to use. I want to have a dark and a light that are kind of similar. So I think I'm going to go with those top two that I did. And I am going to do the lighter of the two on the hat first, and then do a little wipe down. And while it's kind of still wet, while it's still wet, I'm going to blend in then the other shade. So as you can see, I'm taking this and I'm quickly covering the whole surface of the pre-painted white. You don't have to do this, but if you want to blend your colors together, this kind of gives you more of the effect I'm looking at when you do it over the white. So what I did was I just took a little rubbing alcohol and lightened it up all over. It looks a little splotchy, but what this is going to do is let me blend in those colors. So I'm taking the other brighter or darker color of the pink, and I'm doing it in kind of an arced motion, making stripes. And then I'll take the other one and kind of blend it in with it. And that's what you end up getting, and I angle around that top part of the hat to give it more of a realistic effect. And that's how it ended up, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I like the ombre look and the stripes. It just gives it a little definition that we hadn't had on our other hats. So what I did for the little token that it holds, I went ahead and painted the whole thing hazelnut. And then you see where it's got those three little lines. I am going to do different colors and use that as my guide. First I'm doing white that's going to be over the top line and the peak of it. And then I'm going to let that dry. And I'm doing a little extra at the top and using that tip to make a texture on it. And then I'm just kind of blending in the rest because I'm going to be coloring over that anyway. So I'm going to let that dry and get good and dry, and then once it's dry, I'm going to decide what color I want where. Now for the drips and the bottom section of the cone, I am going to do a chocolate brown. And I'm just using my fine point marker, and I'm using that little line as my guide, and then the line for the drips. And I'm going over that. And if it isn't 100% coverage, that's fine. I want it to look a little worn or, melty. And then for the middle part, I'm going to go with one of my pink markers and do that in the middle, kind of almost like a Neapolitan type ice cream, I guess. But I'm doing the pink and using that other line for my guide, and then I am just leaving the top white. And that's how the cone ended up looking. I'm pretty happy with that. I will take my antique wax and do a little bit of that shading along the cone portion of the token. And of course I did use my etching tool to etch out the cone lines. Now I'm taking that same antique wax to the heart that I'm putting on, and I did that in that same hazelnut color that I did the cone and the dress. And I'm just doing that shading technique. And then I'm going to add that to the hat, again avoiding the little notch area. And I'm just going to be adding the heart anywhere I see fit on the hat. It can hang over the side if we want, but I'm just putting it just above the notch and over to the left. And then this is ready to put together and display with the rest of your ice cream decor with the token and hat in place on your gnome. Let's get to work on our ice cream cone circle insert for your ice cream shop collection. It consists of the cone, a circle base, and your magnet, of course. It comes packaged with the banner for this collection with a pink label on it. What I did for mine is I used some blue paint on the sponge for the base, and I believe it was called Cascade Blue Chalk Paint. I'm taking a darker blue small fine tip marker, going around that circle on the inside and then filling it in to give it this two-toned effect. For the ice cream cone itself, I did the entire cone in white chalk paint, and then I took my etcher and etched out those lines. And then I went ahead and colored in the base of the cone with that kind of a bronzy color to give it that more of a cone look. And I'm just leaving the top white, so it's like vanilla ice cream. It pops really well against that blue background. Now when I'm going to put the glue on the back of the base, just a small dot, and then I remove the adhesive backing off the magnet and put that over the top of that and glue that together, and that's ready to go. And for the cone, I am putting a little bit of glue in the middle of the back of the cone, and then I lay it down. You will see there's a gap between your holes on the left or right side. I am laying it down to fit right in that gap. And then when we have it on the in the insert, you'll see I tip it at an angle, and then it looks like this. So now it's time to put this in the barn and start displaying it with the rest of your ice cream shop collection. We are now going to do the frozen treat banner for the ice cream shop collection. It consists of the banner and 5 little overlays and your 2 banner hooks. And it comes packaged with the circle insert we just completed in your pack with the pink labels. So what I did for the base was I did a layer of antique wax with my rag on that. And then for the overlays of the treats, I did hazelnut for that middle popsicle cover, and I used just a Q-tip to put that on, like we did that star on the 4th of July. And I used markers in different shades of blue and pink for the remaining ice cream and popsicles, and I did that shading trick with the white colored pencil, white watercolor pencil on those treats. And then I am taking my glue and just affixing each one over the top, and they just fit on like a little puzzle almost right over the top of the base. Once you have all your pieces glued in place and it looks how you want, it's just a matter of taking your banner hooks and feeding those hooks through those little holes on either side and hanging it off the front of your barn display. Let's make the ice cream sign for your ice cream shop collection. It consists of this neat little kind of banner sign, raised banner sign, I guess, and 2 adhesive words, and it comes with the pink label in its own plastic bag, individually wrapped. And what I did was I did a coat of white first, scored out what I needed to score out, and then I am going to do a pink border and blue inside, and then instead of the brown letters, I'm going to use my silver marker on the letters. So to get started, I find it easier to work on the inside first. I take my blue marker that I've been using, I think it's Egyptian blue, and I do the edges, and then I take the bigger marker of the same color and fill it in and keep it within those lines. And if I get anything out, I'll just touch it up with the paint or score it. Then I'm going to take my pink marker and I am going to go around the outside edge. Now you can use whatever colors you want. You could do paint, whatever. These markers are just what I choose to use because I feel it gives me more control over where the color goes. So this is what that looks like once I have the whole pink outlined. Then it's just a matter of applying whatever color it is that I want to the letters. And like I said, I want them to pop more than that brown that I did. So I'm going to just continue to use that silver metallic on both the words ice and cream. It pops really good against the blue, as you can see. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to continue with that till those are all done. Now I just need to remove the adhesive backing off of each word. It is etched out or scored out where each one will go. It's hard to see on camera once you've got it painted, but you'll be able to see those lines just fine when you're doing it. And if they're somewhat covered up, that's fine. They're just there as a guide so you know where to place your letters. And then this project is complete. It's time to make our ice cream sundae for our ice cream shop decor. It consists of a base and 3 overlays that are going to go on top of that base. And this is what it looks like displayed. You will find it in your box packaged with the ice cream gnome, and it will have pink labels on the packaging. The easiest way to work with this was I did a white base white coat on the base and the cup bowl overlay and the brim overlay, and then pink paint on that one ice cream overlay. Where there's scored lines, I went and took my scoring tool and etched out all the paint from those lines, and then I'm going to embellish with markers. So the first embellishment I'm going to do is on that little waffle cookie or wafer cookie there, and you can see how nice those scored lines show up against the white, and then you color in, it's going to continue to show those lines as well. Again, if you get any paint in there, you can just scrape it out with your tools, but I use kind of a coppery bronze color on that waffle cookie. And then for the straws, I just went in and painted, starting at the top, and I painted in or colored in every other little stripe with a fine tip blue marker. So you have a couple of blue stripes on each straw when you're done with that. The next thing I decided to do was to color in the bowl. So on the bowl there are 3 scoops of ice cream. The top one is going to get covered with the overlay, so I want to color in the 2 bottom scoops. So I'm doing one with the fine-tipped blue, and then I'm going to color it in with the bigger blue marker of the same color. And so I have one blue. The other one I'm going to do the same thing with brown markers, outline it and then fill it in. So the other side will be like a chocolate scoop of ice cream. And then on the very top one, I've already painted that one pink. And I am going to do a little shading on each one of these. So what I take is a white watercolor marker and then draw on it one side and just smear it in with my finger to kind of blend it in. And it gives it that ice cream look effect where there's a little shimmer to it. And I repeat the process on the blue and the brown. And then that pink overlay will go right on top. But before we do that, I'm going to do some shading on the white. It's just too stark for me. I want to take my gray paint. It's called Steel Gray. It's Waverly chalk paint. And I'm putting a little bit on my sponge. The sponge was used, so I just clipped off the bottom. And then I am first doing the, I guess, brim of the bowl or rim of the bowl. And I'm not doing it super heavy. I am just doing a coat and kind of wiping it off, almost like a stain. Then on the bowl itself, I'm going right up to that line kind of, but it's going to be covered, that little white space, by that brim we just did. And then I'm doing darker shading right at the bottom of the bowl to give it that dimension that we're trying to get. And then I repeat the same thing for the stem on the base. So I'm going to take my gray paint and just dab that on for the stem and a little bit around on the sides and top, just to mute down that white a little bit so it won't show through when we layer our projects. So once I have that done and everything's dried, then we're going to start putting this together. So I'm going to take the bowl portion first, and I am going to affix that to the base. So I'm going on the back and putting on a few drops of glue. And then I will line it up as best I can with the very top, middle, and then the bottom of the bowl part of the base. And it should line up exactly. And once I have it lined up, then I'll press everything together. And if need be, you can use your clamps to hold it all together. But once you have that done, then we will move on to our next step, which is we will do the rim of the bowl. So take that and go right up to that line and the sides and get that lined up so nothing hangs over the sides. And that is attached. And finally we will do our pink top, and that just lines up with the middle top of that piece. And then that is ready to display with the rest of your ice cream shop decor. It's time for the final project in our kit, which is the waffle cone gnome. It consists of the base, a beard overlay, the hand in the cone, and a nose. And it is packaged with the ice cream sundae we just completed in your kit with the pink labels. So a lot of this painting is repetitive, so I'm going to go over the high level view, and we did hazelnut on the base, just like we did on a lot of our waffle cone projects. I did white on the beard overlay, and anywhere there was an etched line, of course, I scored that out. And I did flesh color on the nose and the hand, and I did a white base also on that cone. Then for the cherries at the top of the hat, I'm using my fine tip red marker, and for the stems on those cherries, I am using my fine tip black marker. I will also take that fine tip black marker after I do the stems, and I'm just going to do a little highlight swoop on the cherries as well to give them a little detail, a curve just right along the sides of the cherries. And that's optional. It just kind of fits in with what I've been doing on the other projects. Then what we're going to do is go to work on the cone. So I am taking that bronze marker and I am doing the bottom of the cone. For the top, I am taking a lighter blue marker and going to do the ice cream portion with that. So I take it, I think it's called ice blue. I just wanted to go with a little bit of a lighter color for that, and I'm just going to go in and I'm going to actually just use the bigger marker on that. I'm able to get better coverage. And then I go in where it intersects with the cone with the fine tooth marker, or fine tip marker, just to get the detail in there correctly. So the next thing I'm going to do is add a little shading to the beard. It's pretty stark white and I want it to have just a little bit of shading, so I am doing that with our sponge like we have with our other ones right along the edge, and then blending that in here and there. Then it's going to be time to start assembling all our projects, or all the pieces to our project. So what I'm going to do now is apply a little bit of glue to the back of the ice cream cone, and I'm going to line that up with that top portion of the beard overlay. There's a pop out kind of where the ice cream is going to go, and I'm lining that up, and then I am putting a little bit of more glue where the hand is supposed to go, and I'll get that on. And now I am going to do the same thing with the nose. There's a little bump on the top center of that beard overlay. You're just going to line that little nose up with that top bump, and it's ready to go. And then you can start adding your glue to the very back of that beard overlay, and then you're going to line that up with the bottom and the sides, and your waffle cone gnome is going to be done. Now he too can fit in a stand like our other gnome can, and it's the stand with the wider slot, the same one that the farmer gnome fit in. And then once he's done, you can put him right in there with the rest of your decor. And now your ice cream set is done, but this is showing him in a stand if you want to use a stand. I hope you enjoyed all the projects on this. We are going to show you a recap of this ice cream shop set, and then all the sets included in this kit. So here is the final group of our ice cream shop collection, all put together, the final projects that we just made. And I want to thank you for watching this video. I've got a little recap coming up and info about how you can join our subscription box. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the projects. Well, again, my name is Susie. I'm the owner of the Speckled Loon, and I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm going to let the music play here at the end. If you want more information about joining our subscription box, just join the waitlist linked in the description below this video, and you'll get all the information the next time we have our box ready to go out for sale to the general public. Again, thanks for joining us, and don't forget to look for the loon.